Gotta say, I'm kind of disappointed in this week's pattern. But, anyways, hello everyone. We are back with week 4 of the Evergreen Mystery Sew Along that I'm doing with Fat Quarter Shop. I don't know, I was a little disappointed when I saw this pattern, but I'm going to finish this quilt because I started it and I wanted to finish it. So we're up to the tree topper part, and it's supposed to be a star. And in my opinion, that doesn't look very much like a star, but that's okay. You know what? Not everybody likes the same things, and it's okay. I will finish this quilt. My niece, who was here when I was working on this a while ago, she really wanted it. She was very excited for it. So I'll probably just give it to her, and that way I don't have to look at it anymore. Who knows? Maybe when I finish it, I'll end up loving it. We'll see. So I just went through the fabrics that I had left over, trying to decide which one I wanted for the star. There's some fat quarters in here that I hadn't cut into yet, so I figured I would just keep those whole, and that way I could put them in my fat quarter stash and save them for next time. I didn't really want to do a red because I had that red bauble on the top of the tree there, and I figured that might be a little bit too much red close together, so I was thinking about a gray, and I didn't want to cut into the gray with the polka dots because I hadn't used that one at all yet. So I decided to go with the feather one. I figured that one would show up nice enough. But some of my background pieces are really small, so I'm kind of glad that I kept all of these cutoffs. I can use these to cut those pieces, and then I'm not cutting into my bigger piece. I've never done a mystery sew along before where I didn't know what the pattern looked like, and I don't know if I'm going to do it again anytime soon. Maybe in the future, and maybe I'll actually do a better job of picking better fabrics. I don't know. If anyone else is doing this sew along, I would love to see your versions of this quilt. You can join my Facebook group. The link is in the description box below, and share your photos there. All right, I am ready to start sewing everything together. So I'm going to look at step 1 of my pattern, which is to take fabrics B and fabrics F, and we're going to use these to make some teeny tiny half square triangles. I'm just going to move everything else out of my way so it's not in the way. So we're going to start with taking fabrics B, and we're going to be drawing a line on the back of all of these. I know Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, she prefers to use triangle on a roll to make these. Has anyone ever tried those? And could you let me know in the comments if they are worth buying? Because I have considered getting them to maybe make it a little bit easier. And if you're interested in this pattern, I will leave a link to it in the description box below. It is completely free at Fat Quarter Shop. So if you're interested in making this, I mean, like I said, not everybody has the same eye, and you might like it more than I do. And like I said, I'm thinking that a big part of this is I regret my fabric choices. But like I said, I'm trucking through, I'm finishing it. I'm not wasting this fabric by throwing it out. So once I've drawn all those lines on there, I'm just going to lay these right sides together and making sure that I line everything up really nice. And now we need to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of those lines. And that is going to give us 8 half square triangles in total once we're done, because each unit's going to give us 2. I have my sewing machine on this table today because I was working on scraps and I didn't feel like bringing it back to the other table. It was just easier to work here. Once we've sewn them together, we're just going to cut them apart to yield 2 half square triangles. And I'm just going to cut right in between my stitch line. And unfortunately, my slotted trim and ruler doesn't have the measurements for this size, so I had to use this ruler, and that's fine. We're just going to line up that diagonal line on my ruler with the seam line, and then we're just going to trim it to the size that the pattern is telling us to trim it up to. And it is very important to be trimming up. As you can see, I have quite a, well, not quite a bit, but there is a little bit that needs to be trimmed off. And if you don't take the time to do this, it's going to end up in wonky blocks. So make sure that you do take the time to trim everything after every step. And then once you have everything trimmed up, we're going to take fabric C, and we're going to need to use those along with our half square triangles and make little 4 patches. Then the pattern is going to tell you how to lay them out. So make sure that you're doing that correctly and not getting them turned around, because then it will not result in the same look. Once I have them laid out in the order that I want them, I'm going to put them right sides together and then go and sew that with a 1/4 inch seam. So I'm just going to lay them out before I sew the next step to make sure that I didn't get anything turned around. And if you pressed according to the pattern, your seams should nest very nicely. And this is just going to help with resulting in not losing points and everything just looking better. So my blocks are done, and I'm going to square up here because, like I said, making sure that you square up after every step is just going to make your block turn out nicer in the end. I do still sometimes end up losing little points or something because my seam wasn't 100% accurate in that. But you know what? I've learned to live with it. I'm trying not to be a perfectionist with this because it would just drive me nuts if I tried to make every single block perfect. Once these are done, we are just going to put those aside, and then we're going to start on the next step. So moving on to page 2, I will get my fabric pieces that are needed, and that is fabrics E and fabrics G. In fabric G, I can just put to the side for now because on fabrics E, we need to draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of the fabric on all of these again. And these are small little blocks. I'm getting better at working with these small blocks, but it definitely takes practice. I think that this week is probably by far the most difficult part of this whole quilt, in my opinion. So we're just going to lay out these little strips here, and then we have to do some snowballed corners. And if you don't know how to do snowball corners, I do have a video on that, and I will leave a link to that in the description box below. So we need to lay these on here to do our sew and flips. And if you're laying them one way, make sure that you lay them with the lines all facing the same direction. That will just make everything look more cohesive once you're done the block. So once you've sewn along that diagonal line and you've double checked that everything is lining up nicely, we're ready to trim off that excess there. I'm just going to use my ruler and line up my 1/4 inch line with my stitch line and cut it off. And then I pressed it over, and now it's time to put the other ones on. So before we laid the diagonal or laid the pieces down with the diagonal line facing one way, now we need to do the opposite. Once that's all done and trimmed up, we are ready to put this unit together. So we're just going to lay it out as per the pattern. And this was a very small block. I think this is one of the smallest blocks that I've ever made. But I was very happy with the end results, and everything lined up nicely. And here again, you want to make sure that you're not getting those corner units turned around because you won't get that right look. I like the block. I really do. I think this would make a really cute quilt, but I'm just not sure I'm loving it for a tree topper. But once I have it all laid out the way it's supposed to go together, I'm just going to put these right sides together and go and chain stitch those together, and then just finish assembling the block. And once it's all done, I'll give it a good press, and then we can move on. Here, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not going to get everything turned around, but I mean, I really don't think I could screw this up at this point, but it's me, you never know. And if you follow the patterns pressing directions, everything should line up nicely and you should be able to nest all of your seams. So I'm just going to finish putting this together and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, we are getting close to finishing this. So I'm just going to do the last step on this pattern and take fabrics A, and these need to go on either side of our little block there. And then I'm going to sew this together and show you what it looks like on the quilt. And also, if you do enjoy watching my videos, I would really appreciate it if you would give them a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Next week will be the final pattern for this sew along, so make sure that you're around to see what that's going to look like when it's all done. All right, so here it is on the tree, and I'm not liking it. I should have gone with a darker color for that star unit. But like I said, fabric choice has been an issue with this one. I don't know why I'm failing so epically on that one. But I think I'm going to remake this quilt with a better fabric choice. At least now I know what it looks like. Let me know what you think. Is it awful or is it okay? But that's all for now. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching, and until next time.